Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back. Is the audio clear? Okay, good. So let's continue with. So the agenda for this week, basically, let me put up the agenda. So agenda for this week is what? IPsec VPNs. And in IPsec VPNs, we'll discuss what are the various types of IPsec VPN, and in that what we have basically site-to-site VPN using basically IKEY. Then you have DNB VPN using IKEY keyring method. Then basically we have Flex VPN using IKEY version 2. Just hold on. So let us start with. So what do you mean by basically VPNs? VPN stands for what? Virtual Private Network, right? And basically we are already, basically VPN is like basically you have some cloud. Let's say this is the internet. So basically you have some site one, site two. You have two locations which are connected to, let's say, internet. And now you have some segment behind, network X, network Y. This basically, since you're connected to internet, you have this side what? Public IP. So your public IP is known to the whole world. Okay. So what is my requirement? I want to send traffic from network X to network Y. But when I'm sending this traffic from here, so when I'm sending this traffic, so from here the traffic comes as what? Network X going towards Y. But when it comes over here, what happens? I'm sending the packet from here. So when it comes over here, what people can see? People can see only what? The public IP, the packet IP header. When somebody, if somebody opens, what they find? The IP, the public IP of site 2. This is the destination, and the source is what? On the internet. The packet is what? Public IP of S1. When this packet lands on S2, what S2 will do? It will open the packet, and once it opens the packet, what it will find? That inside the packet is meant for what? Destination Y. Just hold on, let me check the audio. The aircon basically was making more noise, I think so. So I switched off the aircon now. So what is happening basically on the internet? If you see what people are not. You are using a public network. You are using a shared network. On the shared network, you are sending what? Your private traffic. Your private traffic is going from network X to network Y across the internet, and the public on the internet, people on the internet, they are not able to see. You're not able to see. They are not able to see what basically you are sending the data. And when we do this, that's as good as what we call this as what? VPN. And the simplest VPN, what we have basically, simplest VPN technology is called as what? GRE VPN. So basically, VPN basically means what? You tunnel your traffic. You tunnel your traffic what? So that people are not able to see what exactly what traffic what data you're sending. Hmm. So the simplest form of VPN is known as what? GRE VPN. And GRE is basically what? It's an IP protocol number 47, and that's the reason this VPN technology, what we call it as what? Layer 3 VPN. So what you have basically in your syllabus is what? Layer 3 VPNs. And the layer 3 VPN, the first type of VPN what we have is basically what? GRE. But the problem in GRE is what? Whatever the packet is going across the internet, people only see what? Your public IP. They don't see maybe this X and Y could be what? Private IP. This could be private IP. Private IP not allowed on the internet. Network X is private, network Y is private. But you're still able to send your data inside what? This tunnel. So this is called as what? Tunneling. So GRE basically is nothing but what? GRE tunneling. And this is the simplest form of what? L3 VPN. But the problem is what? If somebody opens the tunnel, then what will happen? Your data is what? Going in clear text. So if I put a sniffer, what happens? Sniffer will open up the packet. Is my audio breaking? For some of most of the people are saying the audio is not breaking. It's okay. I think only one of the student is having problem. So you need to check on your end. It could be a your end problem because others are telling the audio is good. So most of the students are saying the audio is good. So let's continue now. So this is called as what? VPN. The simplest form of VPN is known as what? GRE tunnel. The only drawback is what? The data is what? Clear text. The data which goes inside the GRE tunnel is what? Data is clear text. And if somebody is on the internet, if somebody captures this packet, if somebody is capturing this packet and opening the packet, then what will happen? This is called as what? MITM attack. If somebody opens this packet, GRE packet, what they will find? They will find inside what? Your data going inside, right? Very quickly, I'll show you this problem, this attack. Okay, very quickly. Let me bring up my this topology. Take this example R10 and R6. Okay, take example R10 and R6. So I go to R10. Let me see. Can R10 ping R6 IP? What is the IP of R6? Let me see R6 IP. Or let me do show IP route. Show IP route OSPF. So yes, R6 is IP. So let me ping this now. Ping 60.6.6.6. Source my IP. I don't know what is my IP. R10 170.10.10.10. Let me see. Yes. So if you see this packet is going, so I'm pinging what? R6 public IP. I'm pinging and my source is what? Also public IP. So from R10 to R6 I did a ping right now. Okay. In this time, the topology what I am using. Okay, let me just clear this all. In this topology, I just not did a ping from where? I'm not writing the full IP, just I'm writing 68.6. Just please understand on R10, I have basically what? A public loopback 170.10.10.10 something like that. So I just now did a ping from R10 from this IP. What happened? R5, R3, they forwarded the packet because the ping is successful. If you see this ping was successful, this means what? The packet landed on from R10, the packet landed on R5, R5 forwarded the packet to R3, R3 finally forwarded the packet to R6. But now consider this. Let's consider this is like what? Internet. So R3 and R5 basically they're like internet ISP routers. This is internet now. So this internet right now forwarded the packet from R10 to R6. Why? Because this were what? Public packet, public IP packet. Now let me see, show you. Show IP interface brief on R10. Okay. or from R4. Let me see from R4 also. Or on R10 only. Let me create a new loopback. So I'm creating a new loopback. Let's say a new loopback 10, and IP address I assign IP address 10.10.10.10. So I'm creating what, a private IP loopback. And on R6, if you see on R6 also there is a private IP 10.6. So now if I do a ping now, ping 10.6.6.6 source 10.10.10.10, what happens? The packet doesn't go. Why? The first reason is what, R10 does not know first of all the route. There is no route. If I do show IP route, there is no route for 10.6. So R10 first of all does not know how to forward. Same way R6 also does not know how to forward. If I do a show IP route on R6, what I see? Only public private IP, only public IPs. There is not a single private IP. This IP is directly connected. So R6 is not having any route for private because private IP not allowed on the internet. Now let me put a default route. As I said, it's an internet connectivity. So if I put a default route now, IP route, I say gateway will be 170.10.105.5. Same thing, I come here R6 and I say gateway 5.5.36.3. 3 basic dot 3 basically means what, router 3. Dot 5 basically IP address ending in dot 5 basically means what, router 5. So this is what is the IP addressing scheme. If you guys all remember that I use always this IP addressing scheme. IP address ending in, if the router number is 5, then all the IP addresses of router 5 will end in what, 5. All the IP addresses of R3 will end in what, 5. So I have to just see the last number. Last number will tell me, oh, this packet is meant for what, router 3. So for R6 the gateway is what, router 3. For R6 the gateway is what, router 3. See, I did a mistake here. Somebody is telling me I put double 0. Okay, and I put enter. Did my router respond back? Did my router respond back? No. So if the router is never, if you configure something, if your router is not responding back, that means the router is accepting that command. Even if I put like this also. See, so 10 or 10 does not make any difference for the router. So while typing, if you type little extra zeros, don't bother. Just continue. Okay, because preceding zeros, no problem. IPv6, remember IPv6 we have preceding zeros need not be written. So 10 zeros is also 0 and 1 0 is also 0. 2 zeros are also 0. But if I write 1 and 3 0, then my router will shout. Then my router will respond back because IP address cannot, the number cannot be more than 255. Okay, so now R10 has a route, a default route for the internet, and R6 also has a default route. Now what will happen? Suppose again I do the ping. If I'm doing the ping from again R10 to R6, what happens now? This time the packet lands where? On R5. Now the see, last time when I did the ping, when I did that ping, what happened on R10? Okay, that time also success rate was not 0 only. Okay, the success rate was 0, but that time the R10 itself was dropping the packets. But now R10 is forwarding the packet to where? R5, and now this time R5 is forwarding, dropping. Why? Because R5 on the internet, you don't have any routes for private IP. because private IP not allowed on the internet. So you have to consider R5 and R3. They are, anytime they receive any private IP packet, they are going to drop. That is their policy, internet policy. Don't allow any private IP packets. But I want R10 and R6 to communicate on their private IP. So what I do? We do that, we do something called as what? The simplest L3 VPN, that is called as what? GRE VPN. What I do, I just create a tunnel interface tunnel maybe 10, and then I assign what? IP address. Any interface you configure, it requires an IP address. Routers interfaces without any IP address means what? Meaningless. If you have an interface, it must have an IP address. If you have interface without IP address means what? That interface is useless for a router. So let us configure some IP address, private IP. Let me again pick up 10 dot. Maybe I'm doing a tunnel from where? R10 to R6. So 10 and 6, 106. So 106.106. Let me put beside this number. Why I'm decided 106? Because it is between 10 and 6. So I'm selected 10 and 6, 106. Can I make 6 and 610? 10.610? Not possible. Why? Because IP address cannot have number more than 255. And then since it is router 10, so I put in the end 10, and then IP address. Done. And then what we do? We specify the tunnel source. So I say tunnel source will be what? My outgoing interface. So as per the diagram, what in the topology, what you see here on R10, what is the outgoing interface? Fast Ethernet 0/1. So I can specify, can I specify the interface? Yes, 0/1. Done. And then tunnel destination, what I'll do? I have to specify what? Tunnel destination, where I want the tunnel to end on R6. So what is the IP address of R6? If you see, this is the IP address of R3. If R3 is next stop IP address, gateway address for R6 is 5.5.36.3. What will be the IP address of R6 then? R6 has to be in the same subnet, 5.5.36.6. And see the tunnel interface up. Same way I need to do from R6 also. So interface tunnel, let's say I give the number 6, and then IP address. R6 IP address also must be what? From the same subnet. So 10.106.106.6. Then tunnel source will be what? As per the diagram, if you see, it is showing 0/0. Basically, 0/0 basically means what? It's a serial link. So it is the R6 serial link it is showing. So tunnel source I can specify serial 0/0, and then tunnel destination for R6 will be what? R10's IP address, public IP. What is the public IP of R10? It is 170.10.105.10. And whenever you do like this tunnel, best thing is what? Before you do the tunnel, you do a word ping the public IP of the other end of the tunnel from your side. So I say ping 170.10.105.10. Source my own public IP 5.5.36.6. And if you see this ping is success. If you have reachability, if you have reachability across internet, any two devices are reachable across internet on their public IP, then can you set up a tunnel between them? Yes. So reachability, if this thing is not successful, then forget, this is never going to work. This is not going to work. So tunneling will happen only if R10 and R6 are connected, and that is what I said. The first thing I said is what? R10 is connected to internet and R6 is connected to internet. How they are connected to internet? Why? Because of the default route, and they have on the outside what? Public IP. So R10's public IP is what? 170.10. If you want, I can write it down here. This public IP here, 170.10.105.10, and here the IP address is 5.5.36.6, and behind we have what? A private IP 10.6.6. Public IP reachability is there. On R6 I created two loopbacks. One loopback is this public IP. Here also one loopback. Here also public IP. On an R10 another public IP. A private IP is what? 10.10. I want connectivity between what? Private IP. I want to send packets private IP. So now they have routes, yes, but that route is what? For the internet. Now I have to teach R6 and R10. What I can do? I can run any routing protocol between them. So can I configure OSPF? Yes, why not? I can say router OSPF maybe 10, and then I say network what? 10.106.106.0, and I can put any area. And then what is my LAN? 10.6.6.0, area 0. Same way R10, router OSPF process 10, let's say. It not be same. On R6 if I have selected process ID 10, not necessary. On R10 also it must be process number 10, because 10 process ID in OSPF is what? Locally significant. So I say network same. I can copy paste also from here. At least this line I can copy paste. Because this is same. See immediately neighborship. R10 and R6 are becoming OSPF neighbor. And then the network 10.10.10.0. Now if I do show IP route OSPF process 10, so if you see R10 is learning about R6 route, and R6 also will learn do show IP route OSPF process 10. R6 is also learning about R10s. How about R5 and R3 along the path? If I go to R5 now, see here R5. If I do show IP route, R5C of the internet router does not have any route for any private IP, only public IP routes. So I set up a tunnel from where? So I did OSPF where? On the tunnel interface. I did not specify, because public interface I cannot send private IP routes. Private IP routes not allowed on the internet. So without informing the internet, R10C forwarded the route. OSPF is running where? Inside the tunnel. So all the OSPF packet messages went inside the tunnel. So the R5 and R3 they don't know also what is happening. So if you see now, if I open the sniffer now, let me go here and let us open what? The Wireshark. See OSPF is going. So if you see the Wireshark is clearly knows what type of packets are coming and what type of packets are going. See hello packets 10.106.6.6, 10.106.106.10. See R10's hello with that. So they're exchanging. But if you see here, what is happening? The application is what? OSPF. OSPF is creating what? This packet. And then this packet is getting encapsulated by which protocol? GRE, and GRE is creating what? The outside packet. And now if I do a ping now, let me do a ping. Let us keep ICMP. I put a filter for ICMP. Now I go to R10. If you remember last time, R10 was not able to ping R6 of private IP 10.6.6.6. Source my private IP 10.10.10.10. and let's say repeat count, I say only 2 packets. And if you see the packets are gone, and see here the ping has come, echo request, echo reply, first packet, second packet, echo request, echo reply. And when I pick up this echo request, first packet, what I see, the application was ICMP. ICMP created what? Its packet. These packets are what? Private IP. But now private IP cannot go. So what is happening? This packet is getting encapsulated inside what? Another packet. So basically, what is happening here? This is the destination. This is the destination address. And this is the source. What is this? This is the original ping packet. What is the application inside? ICMP. ICMP ping echo request. So when this packet is coming to R10, what R10 says? It is checking destination is what? 1066. So it checks its routing table. What R10 routing table says that okay, if you want to go to 10666, how you go? How it will go? I'll check see on R10. R10 routing table says to go to 10666, you have to go via what? Tunnel interface number 10. So it puts the packet on the tunnel interface. So once the packet is on the tunnel interface, what happens now? What GRE does? GRE puts what? Another packet. It applies a new header. Destination and source. And now in the destination is what? 5.R6 public IP 36.6. So this whole packet is now getting what? Encapsulated inside what? A new packet. And here source is what? R10's public IP 170.10.105.10. Okay. And this is the footer. This outer packet is what? GRE packet. This is the outer packet, GRE packet. Inside is the original packet. So this packet is getting what? Encapsulated inside an outer packet, and that is what is there. See here, 170.10.105.10 destination source, and destination is 5.5.36. And the real packet, the original packet is where? But the problem with this is what? So did R10 and R6, are they able to communicate using their private IP? Yes. That means they have done what? VPN, virtual private network. They are using a public cloud, they are using a shared cloud, and using a shared cloud, they have exchanged what? Their private data. But what is the problem with this now? GRE. See, sniffer can easily open up the packet. Sniffer can easily open up this packet. How? Let me show you now. This was only ping. Let me now delete everything. Let me do now telnet. Okay, let me do telnet to R6. First I go to R6, enable telnet. Let's say I create some username. I say username admin, password, let me say Cisco @123. I create some username password. Okay, maybe I create enable secret. Let's say on the router I create enable secret. Uh, Cisco Disco, and then I go to the line VTY04 and I say login local enabled. Telnet is enabled now. Let us go to R10. Now R10 is going to do telnet. See, telnet. First I see what is my loopback. My loopback is private IP loopback is 10. So now I am doing telnet. So I'm telnetting to whom? Private IP of R6. Let's say 10.6.6.6. And I say slash source interface my loopback number 10, my private IP. I say loopback 10 use, because if I don't specify, see it is asking me username. Okay, and over here let me put the filter now, TCP. Immediately see already the Wireshark has captured the packets. Okay, no problem. Let us see here. You're asking who are you? So I say I am admin. Okay, admin. If you are admin, tell the password. The password is what? Cisco @123. See now R6 admin got the access to R6, and then he goes into further. So now he's asking what? Secret password. So I'm typing secret password also. Cisco Disco. So, and now you see I get privilege mode. Once I'm on privilege mode, can I go to config mode? Yes. If I want to configure, can I configure BGP? Yes. Maybe. Can I delete BGP? See, we can delete a routing protocol also. So once you are in privilege mode, you can do anything on a router, right? Like that. Can I check the routing table? Yes, of R6. Can I check the show IP interface brief? Yes. So I can do anything like that. Now, let's say the admin has done his job and he closes this telnet session. But now see what has happened. The link between 5 and 3, what these ISP engineers have done, they have enabled what? A sniffer. They're capturing customers' packets. And if they're capturing customers' packet here, you see all these, they can easily see that, okay, these are all telnet packets. See, telnet data. Okay, now if I click any of this packet, just I'm moving randomly this mouse, my cursor, randomly I'm moving this my cursor. Let it stop anywhere. And you can see now, what was the username I went? Admin. What is the password? Cisco @123. What was the secret password? Like that. Okay, after that what I did? I went, the admin went to where? Config mode. In config mode, what I did? I did router BGP. Then what I did? I removed BGP. Then what else I did? See, everything got, the service provider engineers, they're able to see what I did. Everything. I did the routing table. I checked the show IP interface brief. Then I exit. So this is the drawback of what? GRE. The packets are going what? Clear text. So this packet, all these telnet packets, whatever they went, yes, no doubt they went across the internet. They are private IP packets. Communication is happening, but the problem is what? Inside the GRE packet, the data is what? Clear text. Data is what? Clear text. Any packet, just with this mouse you put on any packet and right click and you see follow. In the list you say follow TCP string, because telnet is TCP based application. Just select TCP and you see you can make out what the administrator was doing. Whatever you did, everything is there, clear text. So this is the drawback of GRE VPN, the simplest form of layer 3 VPN. The data is going what? Clear text. No doubt we send across internet what? Private IP packets. This is VPN, but the problem is what? This VPN is not secured. Why? Because the data is going what? Clear text. And on the internet. Internet is what? A public network, and it's the most insecure network. So you can't send your data clear text on your internet. That's the reason if you see whenever we use internet browsers today, any site you go, what do you find? It is always what? HTTPS. That means your data cannot go clear text now. Your data has to go as what? Encrypted, secured. There is no security in GRE VPN. Communication is there using private IP across public network. But the problem is what? Your data is still going what? Clear text. Users can easily make out what is the actual packet, what is the protocol, port number, everything is open. They can make out everything. See here, everything. This packet contains one this telnet data packet is containing this data. Another telnet data packet is containing this. This packet is containing this. This packet is containing this. This packet is containing this. So each and every packet information is there. First packet, username, admin, admin, N, see every character, whatever I type, every character we can see. Admin twice. Then it is asking password. Now password what I typed, every character. C capital, I, S, C, O, at the rate, 1, 2, 3. So individual packet you can study. Or as I said, just right click any packet from R10. Source is R10 because R10 is sending the data to R6. R10 was doing telnet to R6. That's the reason right click. And if you see, say follow TCP string, you can see everything all together. All these packets assembled together. You can see the actual data what was getting transmitted. This is the drawback of GRE VPN. GRE VPN is what? Only tunneling. It only encapsulates the original packet, but the original packet is still going in what? Clear text. So if somebody opens the tunnel, break the tunnel, then what will happen? Inside they'll see the data is what? Clear text, and your data can get what? Compromised. So on the internet, you cannot send your data like this, and that's the reason. What is my requirement? What I want? The data which I want to send should be what? Encrypted. I want encapsulation. I want the packet, maybe private IP packet, to go across the internet. Plus, the data, whatever I send, must also must not be visible. It must nobody along the path, across the path, should be able to see my data. They should not be able to modify the data. They should not make any, and that's the reason the next layer 3 VPN technology which was created, that is called as what? IPsec VPN. So after GRE, the next development was what? IPsec VPN. And this in IPsec VPN, what IPsec stand for what? Basically, it stands for what? IP security. IPsec basically means what? IP security. You want to secure an IP packet, right? Whatever we are sending on the internet, all everything is what? IP ultimately. Everything is what? IP packets. So I want to what? Secure my IP packets. And when I secure my IP packet, this is internet suppose. Just writing inet. Again, suppose this is X. This is why. So if I'm sending the packet on the internet, if somebody opens the packet, what they will see inside? They should see what? Nothing. They should not be able to see anything. Should not make any sense. If somebody captures my packet, yes, anybody can capture a packet. Capturing is not a big problem. No, it's not a big thing. Anybody can capture a packet. But after opening the packet, what should my packet look like? The data should be what? Garbage. Should not make any sense for the person who captured the packet. Why? Because what I'm doing now, what IPsec is going to do, let's say you have the original packet. Yeah. Again, the destination will be there, source will be there. This is the original packet. Whatever is your application, whether it is Ping, Telnet, anything, whatever you use, this is your original packet. What IPsec is going to do? IPsec is going to do what? It will put this packet inside what? Like GRE, it will also encapsulate this packet with what? A new packet. This is called as what? IPsec header. And it will also have what? A new destination address, new source address. And what will happen now? Only this destination and source address, this new will be what? Visible. Rest all will be now what? So on the internet, if somebody opens this packet, if somebody captures this packet, what will find? They will find was yes, they will find an IP packet, because ultimately this packet also has to go as what? IP packet only. So when they open this IP packet, they'll see what? Only the public IP. Public IP is anyhow everybody knows. So this is also public IP. This is also public IP. But once inside this is what? Garbage. Everything is what? So basically IPsec VPN basically means what? What do you do? Two things. It will do encapsulation, and then your data will be what? So this is the job of IPsec VPN. Not only encapsulate the packet, encrypt the original packet, so that nobody along the path will be able to understand. Nobody will be able to decrypt the packet. This is what is known as what? IPsec VPN. IPsec VPN basically means what? Encapsulation and encryption. Okay. So this was the earliest requirement of IPsec VPN. This is the main thing. Whatever the customer data is there, encapsulate the packet and encrypt the packet. Now, what I happened in IPsec VPN? Let me just delete all this thing. So as I said, original IPsec VPN, its job was what? This is the main job ultimately. Encapsulate and encrypt the data. Correct? This is the main job now IPsec VPN, because you cannot send the data clear text. But the thing is that ultimately you're sending the data across what? You're sending the data across what? A public cloud. Internet is the most insecure network. So what is the requirement? What these people, IPsec people, when they created this technology, what they thought? Suppose my router is sending this data. If it sends this data, how how my this router, let's say this is router number 10, how R10 will come to know that the data is landing on R6? Simple. R10 knows the IP address of R6, right? R10 knows the IP address of R6 public IP. So on the internet, this public IP is also what? Weak. Internet, there are so many guys, there are hackers and all. What they can do? You're sending the data to this IP. As I said, this is what? 5.5.36, right? Public IP. It belongs to R6. But when the packet goes in the internet, is there a possibility that instead of going to R6, some hacker, what he can do? He can put his own router and he can claim, yes, I am R6. I am 5.5. This is called as what? Hijacking, IP address hijacking. Somebody can say, yes, I am 36.6. I am 5.5.36.6. So instead of your packet going to R6 can land where? On some other place. And if it lands on some other place, what will happen then? Maybe, you know, he is not able to open the data. Okay, since you have done the encryption, the packet ultimately is what? Useless. Okay, it can be decrypted, that is different thing. But let's say the packet has landed and the guy who captured this packet, now what happens? He once he opens the packet, it is all encrypted, cannot do anything. But still, what is the problem now? Did R6 get the data? R6 was the device who was supposed to receive the data, but did R6 get? So this was basically, even though your data did not get compromised, but ultimately loss of data happened, right? Data got lost. R10 is sending the data thinking it is sending to R6, and same way suppose R6 is sending the data to R10. So there is possibility of what? Loss of data. Instead of landing at the correct destination, the packet can land where? On some other place. So they said no, this is possible. This is possible on the internet. Somebody can, somebody can impersonate me. This is called as what? Hijack my IP address. Somebody can pretend and say, yes, I am 5.5. Or on the internet, the packets can be routed to some other place. So what they said, no, we cannot do like this. It's all waste of, waste of effort, waste of time and energy. You are encapsulating and encrypting the data. Ultimately, what happens? The packet is not landing on the destination. Instead of landing at the correct destination, it is landing somewhere else. It is going somewhere else. Somebody else is, taking the packet. So no, we cannot do like this. Okay. So just knowing the destination by the public IP is not enough. And that's the reason what they introduced in this IPsec. They said, no, we cannot simply encapsulate. First thing is what? First we should do what? Authentication. So now authentication was added to IPsec. So this is the first responsibility. First you do what? Authentication. First you identify. First you verify that the person who is claiming 5.5.36.6 is genuine or not. And that is how we do basically by what? Authentication. If you see, remember, I did telnet from R6 to I did telnet from R10 to R6. What R6 did? Ask, who are you? So I entered my name, admin. Then it says, okay, what is it? Tell me the password. So if I don't know the password, what will happen? R6 will not allow anybody to telnet, correct? So username, password. So we use for authenticate what? Authentication, we use what? Username, passwords, or only passwords also. So you can use only passwords, you can use username, passwords combination, whatever. Most important thing is what? First authentify, first ensure, first do the verification. Is the other side is genuine or not? If the other side is not genuine, then where is the question of going to the? So this become what? Second part. This becomes secondary. Primary is what? Authentication. If authentication is successful, then only send the data encrypted. Still, even the authentication was successful, that doesn't mean now you can send the data clear text. No, data has to go what? Always encrypted. So this become now what? Secondary. And that's the reason. Now who is going to do authentication? Ultimately some protocol, some application. Who is going to do this? All these encryptions and encapsulation? Some protocol, right? And that's the reason you have what? For this, originally this protocol was called as what? AH. The protocol which was responsible for authentication was known as what? AH. And then the protocol which was responsible for encapsulation and encryption of the data was known as what? The actual main IPsec, basically, who is the main protocol? ESP. Because ESP is the protocol which is responsible for the security of the data, security of the IP packet. But now, like ESP has what? And one assistant. and he says, okay, I will take care of your authentication, AH. And that's the reason this IPsec is not like a single protocol. IPsec is called as what? Suite of protocols. It's a stack of protocol. IPsec is what? Not a single protocol. IPsec is called as what? Suite of protocol and stack of protocol. That means what? There can be multiple protocols inside this technology. So IPsec is basically like a technology, and it's a mechanism of sending your data secured, right? And who is going to do the job? Some protocols, more than one protocol. And when you have more than one protocol, we call it as what? Stack of protocol or suite of protocols. So IPsec is called as what? Suite of protocols. And the first earliest two protocols which were there are known as what? AH. AH is also having its own protocol number, IP protocol number 51, and ESP protocol number is 50. Like GRE is 47. In the sniffer I shown you. See GRE, see GRE protocol number. Where I'll see now GRE protocol number? You can't see GRE protocol number inside GRE. You have to see what? Inside the IP header. Inside the IP header, there is a protocol field called as what? Protocol. Here, see GRE number protocol. So if you capture an ESP packet, you will see here what? 50 number. If you capture an AH packet, you will see what? 51. So protocol, IP protocol number. So AH has what protocol number? 51. And ESP has what protocol number? 50. So GRE is 47, ESP 50, AH is 51. Okay. Now, when the people were discussing all this thing, when long back, maybe, we can say, let's say 30 years back, when people were thinking all this thing, okay, they said this AH, how you are going to do the authentication? How you are going to do the authentication? Based on what? Only some password, right? You will have what? Some password set. So both the routers should have what? Some password. We will configure some password on R10. We'll configure some password on R6. Password whatever we said, it will be what? Same on both the sides. But is this scalable? So what people are thinking? Okay, if you have one branch, this is okay. You have two branch, maybe this is okay. You have 10 branch also, this is okay. But what if I want, I have hundreds of branches. So now if R10 wants to go to R6, see this topology now. If R10 wants to go to R6, between R10 and R6, one password, yes. If R10 wants to go to R1, another tunnel, so another password. If R10 wants to go to R8, another tunnel. R10 wants to go to R9, another tunnel. Okay. So if you want to go to 100 locations, is there a possibility that I can have to configure 100 different passwords? Yes. So is this scalable? From an internet standard point of view, this is not scalable. This AH authentication is not going to be scalable. It is like a static, maybe small network, 3, 4, 10, as I said, 10 locations, maybe somebody can do this. Not scalable. Not scalable. So what they did, they said no, we should have something authentication which can be scalable based on internet. Because if you are using internet, that means you can now connect to any number of locations. Maybe tomorrow you want to connect to 1,000 locations. Maybe you want to connect to 10,000 locations. So we should have some mechanism which must be what? You can use that mechanism, the mechanism which you want, you can use it in a small environment also and very large environment also. And that's the reason they introduced what? A new technology. They added, since as I said, this is like a family. So originally in this family of IPsec, only two guys were there, AH and ESP. But then they said that okay, the ESP is only more related to what? Only encapsulation and encryption. Authentication part somebody else is going to take care. But now this AH is not going to be that dynamic. AH is what, like a static. It can work in maybe small organization. Or thing is what, if I have 1,000 locations, for every location I can use what, same password, then one common password. Okay, and then what happens basically? This is not good. So on the internet, basically, what people have on the internet, on the internet, you have something called as what? Some servers are there, and third-party servers are there, and these servers are called as what? CS. So if you have a big environment, big company, thousands of locations, what this organization will do? They will take they will take some this service of some third party service provider. Some service provider will say, okay, we have, this is called as what? CA, certificate authority. And this certificate authority, what it does, it gives for every destination, every device, it can send what? A digital certificate. So if you have 1,000 locations, every device on of you will get what? A digital certificate. And using this digital certificate, which is signed by this thing, digitally signed. Many times you see where some, maybe some places you must have seen where very sign like that word. So there are so many third party certificate authority services offered like that. So digitally signed certificate will be assigned. So what will happen now? Whenever two devices want to communicate with each other, instead of sending a password, they will send what? Their certificates, their digital certificate. And since the digital certificates of all your devices have been signed by the same CA, same common certificate authority, CA server, so this digital certificate cannot be basically compromised. So it proves that yes, you are R10, you are R6. So when R10 is sending wanting to communicate with R6, when it is sending some information, so R6 will send what? Its digital certificate. And whatever that digital certificate will come, it will have what? A digital signature of this basically CA server. So this become now what? Scalable. And to do this kind of authentication, we have something called as what? IKE. IKE stands for what? Internet Key Exchange. Like that. IKE is this mechanism of using a digital certificate. It is scalable. But this IKE is not necessary. Suppose some organization has only maybe two locations, and still they want to do what? Send this data across the internet using what? IPsec VPN. So can I operate IKE between any, even if two devices, even though I don't have any digital certificate? Yes. So IKE can be used in static also, and IKE can be used for dynamic also. If you have a big organization, so IKE is there. And what happens basically, this IKE will do? Okay, IKE will do the authentication. Yes. So can I use still IKE like AH? Can it do static authentication? Yes. But what's the advantage of IKE? The IKE advantage is what? As I said, it is scalable. Okay. And who is going to do that job for IKE? Ultimately, in IKE, this is a mechanism. Like as I said, IPsec is mechanism. Who does the job of encapsulation and encryption? ESP. Earlier, who was responsible for authentication? AH. So these two guys, when they do their job, we call it as what? IPsec VPN. Similarly, this IKE, if we use this mechanism, ultimately who is going to do the job in IKE? There has to be what? Some application, and that protocol or the application is called as what? ISAKIM. This is the protocol which actually does the job for IKE. And this ISAKIM protocol you can use in dynamic also, you can use in static also. As far as CCI enterprise infrastructure syllabus is concerned, you guys have only static. Okay, you have only static method of authentication. You don't have this digital certificate or dynamic authentication. This is covered in CCI security. So when I teach CCI security, There I explain, I explain how to set up even a digital certificate, like that. How to, how you in CCA security, basically Cisco says what, if you have a Cisco router, then your Cisco router you can make it itself as what, a digital certificate. CA authority, CA server. A Cisco router can be configured as a CA server, like that. And your devices can get the certificate from where, your CA server. You don't need to even go outside and take subscription from third party digital certificate service providers. So that all thing is covered in CCI security, like that. So as far as your CCI enterprise infrastructure syllabus is concerned, you have basically only static. So once this IKE, this technology they created, then what happened? This AH protocol today becomes what, obsolete, and instead of that, now basically we have something called as what, ISAKIN. So ISAKIN replaces AH, because AH was like very primitive. If you know, in BGP route filtering, we have distribute list, route map, as I said. But in BGP route filtering, we consider distribute list as what, very primitive. So nobody uses distribute list for route filtering in BGP, because it is considered very basic, very principal. Same way, AH is considered what, very basic, very primitive, very simple. So instead of this one, you have something what, a very powerful mechanism, IKE, and inside this IKE, who is going to do the job? ISAKIN, like that. Okay. Now, as I said, ISAKIN is what, ultimately, when I say everything ultimately is what, a protocol. So it should also have what, some identification. Like ESP has an identification number what, protocol number 50. AH was having what, 51. How about ISAKIN? What is ISAKIN? ISAKIN is nothing but what? It's a, it's a fast it's a fast way of doing the job. It is basically UDP. It's a UDP protocol, and if it is UDP protocol, that means it will have what, a port number. So what is the port number for ISAKIN? UDP port number 500. Okay, so ISAKIN is the job. Now who is going to do what? The first part of authentication. Authentication responsibility is taken by which protocol? ISAKIN. And then encapsulation and encryption responsibility is whose? Encrypted. No, data encryption will be done by whom? ESP, this protocol. Can I still, then somebody can ask me, can I still, if somebody wants to use AH also, can you still use AH? Yes, if you still want to have AH also do the authentication, you are still free to use AH also. But having two authentication makes no sense. But if still somebody want, no, he says no, I want to be double sure. So can I want ISAKIM also, and I want AH also to be there. And one more thing is there. Why this AH actually became obsolete? Because as I said, ISAKIM is more powerful, is more better, more scalable. That is one reason. And what there was another reason also. This ESP, this protocol, original responsibility of ESP was what? Only this encryption of the data, right? ESP can optionally also do what? Authentication. If you want, ESP can itself do authentication, and that's the reason what happened. This AH is like becoming totally obsolete. AH is becoming what? Totally obsolete, because ESP is also can do the job of AH, and ISAKIMP is also doing the job of AH. Because of these two guys, AH is becoming like what? Obsolete. But it is still part of the family. Let me clear all this thing. Let me show you. I already have a slide. There you see now IPsec VPN. What basically we want? Authentication. And then what is there? Encapsulation and encryption. So originally, who was going to do that job? AH. Encapsulation and encryption. Who is going to do that job? ESP. AH was what? IP protocol number 51. ESP was IP in a protocol number 50. And then, as I said, this IKEY technology came. IKEY mechanism was introduced, and this in IKEY basically who does the job? ISA came. UDP port number 500, like that. So basically, when we say IPsec VPN, IPsec VPN basically means what? Combination of what? ISACM plus ESP. And authentication now is called as what? Phase 1. And you know the encryption and encapsulation part, which is done by ESP, that is called as what? Phase 2. So basically, IPsec VPN, in IPsec VPN you have what? Two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is what? Basically only authentication. You want to ensure that you're talking to the right, the right person on the other end, right? Sometimes happens, maybe you dial some number, phone number. You're dialing your phone number of your friend, but what happens? Somebody else pick up the phone. Somebody else is picking up your friend phone number, but you can make out, while you can make out the voice difference. You know how your friend talks, so you have a doubt, you have a suspicion. So what you will do? You're not immediately going to talk, tell whatever you wanted to tell your friend. Maybe you'll say first, first let me know who are you. Maybe the other guy pretends. He says, yes, I am your friend. I'm your friend John. He says, okay, if you are John, tell me something. Yesterday where we met yesterday. Did we meet yesterday or not? So if John is really John, he knows whether you met or you didn't met. Maybe you can post in 3-4 queries. You can question 3-4 things. If the answer of John, if John is really John, he will answer. He will give the correct answers. But if John is not John, he will not give you the correct answers. That is what ISACM does all this thing. So first the two guys, what they do, they set up what? Authentication, like that. And if you see in authentication, in this phase 1 ISACM authentication, basically there are two modes. There are two modes. One is called as what? Main mode, and the other one is called as what? Aggressive mode. In main mode and aggressive mode, there are two different modes in phase 1. What is the difference between main mode and aggressive mode? If you see, by default there are how many messages? In main mode 6 messages, whereas aggressive mode, it is what? 3 messages only. So which is fast? Aggressive method is fast. Main mode is little bit slow, but main mode is more secure. Why? Because you are exchanging 6 messages. And while if you are exchanging 6 messages, okay, so you're not sending some data together. One message is sent, then another message is sent, then another message is sent, like that. So during any place, if there is some doubt, what will happen? The session will terminate. Aggressive mode, even though it is fast, there is a possibility what? Your data can get compromised. Authentication can be compromised. So which is comparatively, which is more secured? Main mode. And that's the reason this is the default mode in IPsec VPN. By default, IPsec VPN will always work in which mode? Phase 1 will work in which mode? Main mode. And anyways, as far as your syllabus is concerned, again, you don't have aggressive mode. Okay, so we have whatever IPsec VPN syllabus you have in CCI Enterprise, that is more related to what? Main mode, not in aggressive mode. Detailed security will be, Cisco is offering detailed security where? In CCI security track. If somebody wants to do specialization in security, then later on they have to go for what? CCI security. In enterprise, in CCI Enterprise, what Cisco is introducing, they are actually making you aware of all the technologies. Little they are giving you knowledge of all the technologies. MPLS basically what? Service provider technology. So you have MPLS in enterprise also, like that. BGP, if you see service border, you have in BGP in CCA enterprise also. So 100% you will not have BGP, 100% you will not have MPLS, 100% you can't have in IPsec VPNs. But at least let's say 40% at least the introduction you have of IPsec VPN. So ISA came IKE. Another name for IKE is also called as what? PKI. Okay, PKI. Okay, it's not like PKI. PKI. PKI stands for what? Public key infrastructure. Internet key exchange. PKI stands for what? Public key. Why? Because we are talking about what? Internet, basically. So basically, what you can exchange, the two guys see. If you are doing encryption, if one side you are doing encryption, the other side must be able to do what? Decryption. The other side you must be able to what? Decrypt. So what they use basically, you have basically what? A pair of key. You have a pair of keys that is called as what? Public key and private key. The public key is what? Shared on the internet. You send the public key. So what will happen on the internet if somebody captures also your public key? No problem. Even if they capture the public key also, there won't be any problem. Understand? Now, so you have public key and private key basically. The private key is never sent. That is the reason it is called as what? Private key. So you encrypt by private key, a public key, and you decrypt by your private key. Only the public key is getting shared on the internet. So if somebody captures also the public key, they will never learn, they will never know about the private key. Why? Because all this mechanism is done by ISAKM. Under ISAKM, you have all these mechanisms possible. And what people use to ensure this? This public key and private key. Again, internally, you have another mechanism which is called as what? Diffie-Hellman key. Diffie-Hellman mechanism. DH. So Diffie-Hellman mechanism is basically responsible for generating what? Public key and private key. So private key is basically derived from the public key because they are related. The public key and private key is related. So if somebody captures your public key, can they derive the private key? Like it's possible. Like nothing is impossible. Everything can be cracked. That is one thing, but it is very difficult because if you use a good, you feel like if you see your email, take example your email. We are using emails on the internet. What any email account you're creating? What nowadays what we have? We have basically what? Password policies, right? You have password policies, and some site they say no, your password has to be what? Minimum. It has to be minimum 10 characters. So they're telling you, make, if you're setting up a password, see that your password is not less than 10 characters. Then it should be what? Alphanumeric. Then it should be what? Uppercase, lowercase. Then you should have what? Special characters. So these are all to make your password. If somebody simply use like this Cisco password, what will happen? If I'm using simple on the internet, I'm using Cisco password, Cisco 123, Cisco like that. Anybody can guess this. That's the reason we are told some sites will not allow you to use Cisco also. The moment you try to create an account, they'll say, no, this is not, there is no upper key, there is no uppercase character, there is no numbers, there are no special characters. So you have to make your key what? So if you make your password, your key, very complex, then it will become what very difficult for anybody to crack it. The same thing, this Diffie-Hellman key, ultimately, we have to decide the password. So if you make the password strong password, very strong complex password, we of course we must remember also whatever password we are config setting up. Many times that is what the problem happens with most of the people. We set up a password and then we forget the password, and then you have to do what password recoveries. So all this thing makes what all this thing happens in what phase one. So in phase one, it is very important that the two devices ensure that you know they are talking to the right destination. Like R10 will ensure that it is talking to R6 only, and R6 also will ensure that it is talking to R10 only. Both will authenticate. Once the authentication is successful, once the phase one is successful, then ESP will come in the picture. And if you see ESP, as I said, ESP is called as what phase two. And what's the job of ESP? Job of ESP is only what encrypt, encapsulate, and encrypt the packet. Ultimately, this is your data here. You want to send the data. The data has to be sent encrypted, secured, and that's the reason in phase two you have only one mode, and that is called as what quick mode. Ultimately, I want my data to go fast. So maximum time will be taken by one home phase one. That is very important because even though in the beginning you are spending more time, but at least you are ensuring that you are talking to the right person and your data will not be compromised. Nobody will be able to capture your data. Nobody will be able to you know modify your data. That means your data will remain what as it is. And this is called in once you do this IPsec VPN, what we get? We get something called as what CIA. CIA is not the secret service of US. Okay, CIA here stand for what? Confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. Okay. Actually, it should be the correct thing should be what? ACI, authenticity. That means I'm authenticating. I'm ensuring that I'm talking to the right person. And then once I ensure that I'm talking to the right person, my communication is authentic. Then what is happening? Because of encapsulation, it is becoming what confidential. Nobody can see my data, and even if somebody open my data, they cannot modify my data. Integrity. So my data is what going secured. Data is not getting compromised because of what encryption. So encapsulation and encryption ensures what CI, and authentication ensures what authenticity. This is called as what CIA, or you can say ACI, whatever you want to say in specific. Okay, guys, clear? And now ultimately, see when R10 is asking who are you, okay, R10 is sending a request to R6, suppose, the same example, same topology, R10 and R6, let's say, R10. R10 and R6 want to communicate. This is internet 5 and 6, right? Like that. So when R10 is talking to R6, so R10 is going to advertise itself, introduce itself also. It say I'm R6. Sorry, I'm R10. Hey, I want to talk to you R6. Please identify. My identification is so and so. So R6 also will respond like that. This information also what how this information must go. This information also must go what secured. Even the authentication information also must go as what secured. And to do that, basically you have here, that is what I was showing. You use what you, the authentication information will be what hashed. The authentication information will be what plus even the authentication in this, see this ISA came. This is that's the reason ISA can do what? If you see AH was only able to do what? Authentication it was only able to do what? Hashing. MD5 or SHA algorithm it will use and only do what? Hashing. But this ISA can do now what? Not only hashing, you can even do what? Encryption. So even your authentication information is also going what? Secured, like that. And the third thing, you have basically what? Diffie-Hellman. So big hashing, this is called as what? Hashing, encryption, and Diffie-Hellman key. This all these three together makes ISA what? Scalable and more secure. And that's the reason this AH is as good as what? That. And today, anytime anybody says IPsec VPN, it is basically what? ISA only. How many messages in main mode? 6 messages in main mode. Aggressive is known as what? 3 messages. But this is more secure. This is less secure. Aggressive mode. This is slow. Yes. This is little bit faster. Public key is used, see, when you have two KPIs. What is my requirement? My requirement is what? I have this data. I want this data to be sent, and I want this data to be done what? Encrypted. So to do this encryption, I use what? My public key. So public key I use to encrypt and send the data. So once this encrypted data lands on the other side, you know, let's say on R6, it is landing on the R6. Now R6 has to do what? Decrypt the data. R6 has to do what? Decrypt the data. To decrypt the data, what R6 will do? It will use its what? Private key. So public key is only used for what? Encrypting the data. Private key is used for what? Decrypting the data. So this Diffie-Hellman here, in this Diffie-Hellman here, they generate what? The key which will be used for what? By ESP to encrypt and decrypt the data. So once the data comes here, you use your private key to this thing, like that. Okay, like somebody is telling an example, like you in some banks, basically what they do, they offer what? Locker services. So you purchase a locker service from some bank, and in that bank locker, what we can do, you can keep your valuables, like maybe some documents, or maybe some like jewelry, whatever you want to keep. You can keep your locker empty also. That doesn't, the bank guys, they don't care also what you keep inside the lockers, right? Like that. So what they do, when somebody purchases this bank locker service, what they do for you, they give you a lock, and they give you what? A key, like that. So one key they give you, like that. And then whenever you want to go and open that locker, or whenever you want to close the locker, what do? You cannot go alone and open the locker. So somebody from the bank will come in the locker room. They will, first of all, you don't have the keys to the locker room. The bank guys will open the locker room. Then they will come, and then if you guys have experience, or if you have seen in some movies and all, the bank guy, what he will do? He will have his own key, and he will, what he'll do? First he'll put his key and he'll open the, he'll unlock. Then even though he does that, what happens? He is not able, the locker doesn't open. Then you insert your own key and you open the locker, right? So when you open that locker, that is called as what? Your private key. And the bank guy, what he is using is what? Public key. So public key is like it's public key. In the bank, anybody can have access to that public key. So even if somebody has that access to the public key, you normally you cannot open that your locker. But we have seen so many movies, Ocean 11, like that. Our Indian local movies also, Shah Rukh Khan. So basically, it's a two key system: public key and private key. With public key, you encrypt the data. So public key is what? Shared. Public key is like common between the two guys. But private key is what? Unique. R10 does not have the private key of R6, and R6 does not have the private key of R10. Between them, they have what? Public key. So if somebody on the internet, captures this packets when the public key is getting exchanged, because ultimately, both the parties have to, share the public key. So when they share the public key, if somebody captures that data also, and they are able to open the data, they will still get what? Public key. But from the public key, the private key, what is derived. This public key and private key, they are what? Basically related. Mathematically, they are related basically. That's the reason it is called as what? Norms. These are all basically, big mathematical calculations which happens in the background. Norms. This is called as what? Norms. Private key and public key, basically they are basically norms. They are like a couple. They are related by some mathematical calculation. Some very large prime numbers are involved in this Diffie-Hellman mechanism. Very large prime numbers are involved. Now the does not, you it's not required that much you guys to go into that deep. So just you understand that Diffie-Hellman is basically what? It's like generating what? A key pair, public key and private key, and it is very secured because this Diffie-Hellman key, you can set up how strong you want. It can be 10, it can be 1024 bit long, it can be 204, 2000. Just imagine 2048 bit, like that. So phase one is also basically encrypted and hashed. That's the reason all this thing is this mechanism is called as what? Internet key exchange. You want to exchange the key across internet, and everybody knows internet is what? Most insecure. There are all hackers around working on the internet active. So you can't take chances. So you have to see that you don't send the data normally. You don't send the data only hashed. You don't send the data only encrypted. You use both, like that. So all hashing, encryption, and public key and private key combination will be used. So when they are authenticating, for authentication they'll use hash and encryption, and then once the authentication is successful, they will, using the Diffie-Hellman mechanism, they will create what? The key pair. This key pair will be used by what? ESP to encrypt what? The data. And the data, data is what? Nothing but what? Packets, right? And when you have stream of packets, when you have stream of packets, when you have stream of packet, we call it as what? Traffic. Ultimately, it is what? For the router, it is what? Stream of packets going across a router, it is called as what? Or on the internet, we call it as what? Traffic. And this traffic needs to be what? Encrypted by what? Some key. And that's the reason this key is called as what? Oh, sorry. This key, which is used by ESP to encrypt the data, is called as what? Tech. This is called as what? Tech. And in the beginning, these two devices, when they do this authentication, they also use what? A key to do the authentication between them. So once That is called as what? Cake. Cake and take. You can take a cake like that. So cake basically stands for what? Key encryption key. And TEC stands for what? Traffic encryption key. This TEC is basically derived from where? Diffie-Hellman. And this key encryption key is basically derived from where? If it is static, we provide the password. If it is dynamic, this will use what? The digital certificates. DS, digital certificate. It can be digital certificates or it can be simple as what? We provide the password or we provide the key. Encryption is different and hashing is different, separate. That's the reason algorithms. See here I've written. Now, whenever we talk about hashing, only two guys are there who does the hashing job. And what are those two guys? One is MD5 and the other one is called as what? SHA. Okay, MD SHA, MD5 SHA. When you're talking about algorithm, when you're talking about encryption, who are there? You have these three guys, the trio. DES, triple DES, AES. And in this, which is the most powerful? This guy is the most powerful. And in AES also now you have different options. So the earliest encryption mechanism was called as what? DES. Then it becomes what? 3 times DES. Triple DES becomes powerful. DES was only uh, DES was how many you be? 56 bit. DES was 56 bit. Three times DES is what? 168. 3 DES is what? 168. And AES actually started itself. AES started with what? 192. So today you will see there could be AES 256. There could be AES maybe 384. There could be AES 512. Same way, this Diffie-Hellman has also gone up. It has gone very high. It has gone up to 4096. Please understand, today our all browsers and all whatever we are using on the internet, basically we are at the only at this level only now. So far we are only using 128 bit. Whereas you can see here, they have gone up to, just see this, they have gone up to 4096 bit. And this AES also, if you see, it's starting is what? Maybe 192. It can go up to 256. We'll see all this thing when I can start configuring. So anytime you want to do encryption, you have different algorithms. So these are the guys which do encryption, and these are the guys who do what? Hashing, like that. So hashing and encryption will make your data strong. So all this thing will happen what? Under phase 1. And this is what I have written here. See? This is basically what? Authentication. A stands for what? See, I have written age. Easy to remember. Normally you cannot say like that, but I remember like this: age. If you are configuring IPsec VPN, I remember age. And the last is what? H. H for what? Hashing. E for what? Encryption. G for what? Diffie-Hellman group key. And A basically means what? Authentication. How you want to do authentication? As I said, you know, ISACM basically means what? Scalable. Does it mean that always it has to be digital certificate? No. So it can it be manual static? Yes. So this is called this is the first thing we define. As far as as I said, your syllabus will be always doing what? Static. So it can be either static. This password basically means what? Static or manual method. So you guys have what? Only static. Whereas CCA security guys can have what? Static as well as dynamic. That is digital certificates. Yes, instead of setting up a password, digital certificates can be used. Instead of the password, digital certificates will be used for doing the authentication. And that digital certificate of the password itself will be what? Hashed and encrypted. The data also will not go clear text. You can't simply send the digital certificate as it is. That information itself will be more done for what? Hashing and encryption. Hashing and encryption, you are ensuring that nobody is able to see your cake or tech. So the not the initial key which will be exchanged to identify do the authentication, that information also will be secured. And once the authentication is successful, once the two both the sides have authenticated each other successfully, then as I said, they will decide what? The key pair for encrypting the data, which will be used by ESP. And then when ESP, once it gets its key using this tech key, it will encrypt the data. And when it is encrypting the data, it will use what? This algorithms. Okay, guys. So basically, IPsec VPN basically means what? Configuring what? Today now any IPsec VPN you are configuring basically means what? ISAKIN and ESP. Main is always ESP encryption. Ultimately, the our main aim was what? I don't want the data to go clear text. Authentication was optional, but today it has become what? You cannot avoid it. It is like mandatory because it is needed. So phase one is called as what? ISAKIN phase one. Ultimately, it is still optional. It can be replaced by something else. If I can ensure I can do the authentication by some mechanism, then maybe I don't need ISAKIN, some other mechanism. Like that. But once I know that yes, I'm talking to the right person, then I want whatever I send the data, I want the data to go as what? Encrypted. And for that, there is only one mechanism which is called as what? ESP. And ESP itself will take help of what? All these algorithms. So when we configure, we tell ESP in this phase one, phase two configuration, we tell ESP which algorithm we want to use. We will tell ESP, hey ESP, you have to use AES, hey ESP, you have to use triple dash, like that. Same way here also, you know, when I'm configuring ISAKIM, I have to tell ISAKIM, how you are going to do authentication, manual or dynamics, that is using digital certificate. As I said, for your syllabus, it will be only manual. So here we'll define what? Manual. Then we'll say, okay, which Diffie-Hellman group key, how you want the Diffie-Hellman group key, how strong. So that we'll see that also. Then encryption. For encryption, again, which are the protocols? The same. Sorry, which are the algorithms? Same algorithms. So this encryption also in phase one also we'll be using what? DES, triple DES or AES. And then for hashing also, we can also have what? MD5 and SHA. Now somebody will say, in phase two, can we still have hashing also? Yes, if you want, you can have here also. In phase two also, I can have hashing plus algorithm plus encryption also of the data. So if I want even here also for the data also, hashing plus encryption, yes, that is also possible. So in phase two also, hashing option is available. And who can do the hashing? Again, the algorithm what will be what? MD5 and SHA. And who can do this hashing? ESP can do this hashing also. ESP, we can tell, hey ESP, you have to do hashing also. Like AH was originally doing hashing only. Now ESP can also do hashing. That's the reason AH has become what? Obsolete. Then what else is there? Fifth, there is also fifth option also, something called as what, lifetime. You can keep, you can assign a lifetime also, that okay, whatever the keys they are generated, you can't have seen on the internet. If some communication is happening for a very long time, and somebody is, watching your communication. Watching in the sense means what? Man in the middle attack. It's basically called as what? The person who is watching your data is basically, in English it is called as what? Eavesdropping. And that's the reason, a shortcut name is called as what? Eve. So there is some Eve on the internet. Eve basically means what? His job is to do what? Eavesdropping. So basically this Eve, what he can do? Basically this side you have John, and this side maybe you have Sam. So Sam and John, when they're communicating, there is somebody Eve who is watching. And this Eve, if Sam and John, send, they're using the same key for maybe, the whole day, 10 hours, 12, 20 hours, they're using the same key. Then possibly what? This Eve, after capturing your packets in the background, he will put, whatever the packets are captured, he will try to decode. And there is a possibility he will be able to decode it after maybe 10 hours something. And that's the reason we have something called as what? In lifetime. Option, not compulsory. Please understand all these parameters in your real exam. Whenever you get this task to do any VPN, the parameters will be provided to you. You don't have to, in the exam, you don't have to think, no, I will do strongest authentication, I'll do. No, it's not in your hand. No, you cannot do anything on your own. In CCI security also, you cannot do anything on your. Everything will be told to you. Everything will be provided. How authentication has to be done. What hashing algorithm you have to use. If they say in the exam MD5, you have to go for MD5. In the exam, if they say you have to use triple dash, you can't say triple. AES is better than triple dash. Then I will use better. I will use AES. No, in the exam, if they say use triple dash, you have to use triple dash only. Same with Diffie-Hellman. In the Diffie-Hellman, if they say that okay, you have to use this Diffie-Hellman group, you have to use that group only. You cannot say no, this Diffie-Hellman group is only 2000. There is 4000 also available, so I am going to use 4000 group Diffie-Hellman. No, exam. In the exam is what? It's only a skill of knowledge. It's not the test of best practice. So sometimes the parameters which will be provided to you might not be the best parameters, but whatever parameters you will get, you have to use them. You cannot decide and you cannot say no, I will not do. If they say dash, no, I'll say, you will not say no, I will not do. Yes, I will do triple dash. If they say MD5, you say no, I won't do MD5. We'll do MD SHA, and in SHA also I'll do the most powerful SHA. If I have multiple options, no. So please remember, while practicing, you can make it as strong for It is all up to you. While practicing, you can make as strong as possible. You can use, but please remember, in your real exam, you cannot decide the parameters. Parameters will be provided to you. Wherever VPN requirement will be there, parameters will be provided to you. So you don't have to, spend your time in deciding what is best. There is nothing like they will not give you option. You will not have an option. It will be always there. Whatever they tell you, you have to do. Suppose they say no lifetime. They did not define. They did not specify lifetime. That means then don't do lifetime. Don't do lifetime. You are not supposed to do. Except the default lifetime is in ISAKIN the default lifetime is 1 day. Just imagine, the default lifetime is 1 day, 86,400 seconds. That is the default lifetime. So that is very high. Normally you should not keep it like that. Maybe you should keep it for 2 hours, 3 hours basically. So you should not change it. If they are not specified, don't change. Never do anything unless told. This one secret you should remember to pass CCI exam. Whatever they tell you, you have to do according to that. Don't do anything unless told. Don't change the default lifetime. And in this phase one also there are of course some default things also. Okay, please understand. I will show you that this Diffie-Hellman also there is some default encryption, also there is some default hashing, also there is some default. So in the exam, if they say use default values for all these parameters, then you have to use the default parameters only. And that default parameter, they can be maybe weak also. They might be the least strong parameters. Even though if they are the least strong, if they say use default, you have to use default. So parameters, just forget. Just remember whatever they tell you, you have to do. Don't try to make it more powerful, more better. If in making it more powerful, more better, you will lose maybe $2,000 because there you will fail. You do the IPsec VPN, everything is working, everything was going perfect, but you did not do according to the requirement. You did according to your own requirement. Is not going to give you any get you any score. You're not going to score any points. And if you violate, and even if one requirement you violate, gone the whole thing, because there is no partial grading. Either you will get zero or you will get full marks. You'll never get like if this IPsec topic, suppose the task is maybe 5 points, so either you'll get 5 or you'll get zero. There is no question of you'll get 3 or you'll not. There is no question of you get 4 or maybe 2, like that. There is no partial grading in your lab exam. Either you score or you don't score. That's it. Means either you score full or you don't score only. This was our GRE tunnel, and I shown you like that. If like two devices are communicating, this is your private IP packet. It is getting encapsulated inside what? Or GRE packet, but that packet is what? Clear text, right? And if you are doing IPsec tunnel, what will happen? See your IPsec tunnel, what will happen? This is your real packet. This is your the original packet. Original packet will get encapsulated inside what? An ESP packet. And this original packet is now what? It's not clear text. And this whatever I've drawn is what? Hashed, encrypted. So anybody, if they capture ESP packet, what they can see? They can see only this portion. They can only make out the IP address. Because IP address is not a big secret. IP address is your public IP, which everybody knows. Only this is visible. Rest all is what? Garbage. This is how that technology. So practical we'll see tomorrow. Or we'll do this thing. R5 and R3 will consider them as what? Internet. And instead of R4, we can do R10. And we'll do R10. One side R10, one side R6. And these are the five parameters. But lifetime, in so far in my last 18 years or 17 years of teaching CCI, basically, I have never seen, even in CCI security also, I have never seen this parameter they have ever told to change. You will be told to do this, you will be given to this, you will be given asked about this parameter. These 4 parameters they can ask. And I remember it's like age, age of HL. So tomorrow we'll see how to configure IPsec VPN between R10 and R6. We'll consider R5 and R3, and same way over here what I'll be doing, I will enable what Wireshark. I'll enable Wireshark tomorrow, and we'll see how the in the Wireshark how these packets will be seen, how IPsec packets will be seen. Will Wireshark be able to open the IP header? So same like today how I did in GRE, I will do a telnet tomorrow also from R10 to R6. And once we do telnet from R10 to R6, in the Wireshark we'll see whether Wireshark is able to understand the application what I'm using. Practically we'll see in the Wireshark. That's the reason Wireshark is very important, because whatever we say, whatever we write on the actual Wireshark can show you what exactly is happening. As I shown you, see, it is clearly Wireshark is clearly telling that the application is telnet, and inside telnet it will clearly tell me the full story. What was the password? Everything, whatever gets captured. So telnet is that's the reason many organizations they said they never do telnet across internet, because if you use telnet to remotely access some device, your data is getting compromised. That's the reason some enterprises they have what remote access, remote login policies. They say anytime remote login is there, use what protocol? SSH. Instead of using telnet, they say use SSH. Because SSH is what same. SSH is using what same thing, encryption. All right, guys. But SSH is only meant for what? Remote logging. But I want to send any data. Somebody is doing ping also should not be seen. Somebody is doing telnet should not be seen. Somebody is doing HTTP, HTTP should not be. Somebody is using Oracle, whatever whatever your applications customer users are using, their data must not be visible. It can be online banking. Your data cannot go clear text. All your data must be what? As far as possible, it must be secured. So enough of this theory as of for today. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll see how to do IPsec VPN between two locations. Step by step there has been, and not only Wireshark, I will also show you demonstrate in what the debug also, the main mode. All the 6 messages I will show you in the main mode also. So hope you enjoyed IPsec VPN. Okay. And trust me, once we complete this IPsec VPN, once I explain you all this thing, now later on, it will become like a child's play for you, IPsec. And then tomorrow I'll show you what are the different types of IPsec VPN. Okay, guys. So let's end for the today. See you guys tomorrow. Same time, 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Bye bye.